It was at the beginning of time, in the forest of the ancient land, that there lived the most evil of beings, the K'in. These K'in were spirit things that came in the night and ate the souls of men and women. Then they lived in the empty bodies of their victims, acting as if they were the people themselves. Even the close kinfolk of the victims would never suspect that the body they were talking to was no longer lived in by their loved one, but was like an empty grass hut that someone evil had moved into. There were two ways to tell the difference between real people and the K'in walking about in their stolen human bodies. The K'in went out in their bodies only at night. They left the empty bodies sleeping in the daylight, while the K'in hid in spirit form in some difficult-to-find place of safety. If your kinsman always wanted to sleep by day and fish or hunt by night, that was a warning that perhaps he was a K'in. Also, while out at night, the K'in ate only things that were still alive. They could not stand cooked food because fire was their only enemy on the earth. If your kinsman ate fish and bugs that were still alive and wiggling, that was a sure sign he was a K'in. One night a boy was sitting in front of his hut, and one of his uncles came along with another man. "Let's go fishing, boy," said the uncle. The boy smiled and joined them in the moonlight, walking down the riverbank to the fishing boats cut from the trunks of trees that grew in the forest of the ancient land. The three poled their way off the riverbank and began to paddle along the grassy marsh at the edge of the slow-moving river. "Let's catch some bait first," said the uncle. The boy stepped out of the boat into the shallow water and caught a frog. He gave it to the uncle. When the boy's back was turned, he heard the uncle say, Oh, that one got away." This seemed strange to the boy because he had not heard a splash, like the sound of a frog jumping from the boat. He caught another frog and gave it to his uncle's friend. When the boy's back was turned, the other man said, Oh, I dropped that one." Now the boy was afraid. His uncle and the other man were K'in. Even though the K'in were hard to discover, normal people knew about them, and this boy had figured out what was happening. "I'll go behind this fallen log and look for really big frogs," the boy said, and he quickly stepped into the high grass, out of sight of the K'in in the boat. When he got to the other side of the log, he said, "Here's a big one." Gulp! He was delicious. When the K'in heard this, they looked at each other and said to themselves, "He's one of us." "Wait," said the boy, "and I'll find another big one." Then after a pause, he said, "In the daytime, while this boy's body sleeps, I hide in a little basket with a lid. Where do you hide?" The uncle laughed. "I thought all the spirit things hid with us. I did not know any of our number hid in a basket." "Oh," said the boy, "there are many of us who hide in baskets." The other man laughed too. "That is a silly place to hide," said the man. "We hide in the top of the bamboo stalk beside the water buffalo pen, in a hole that bees made for their nest." "That is a good place," said the boy. Then the boy bent down to a little frog he saw sitting on the log. "Little frog," he whispered, "these men are really K'in, and they want to eat you. If you will help me, I will leave you alone." "Very well," said the frog, because frogs can talk if they have anything very important to say. "When the men call for me, say, 'I think I have a big one. Wait just a moment.'" "Very well," said the frog. The boy crept away through the grass to the riverbank and ran back to his house. "What's taking you so long?" said the uncle back in the boat. "I think I have a big one," said the little frog in his deepest voice. "Wait just a moment." After a few minutes, the other K'in in the boat called out, "What's taking you so long, boy?" "I think I have a big one," croaked the little frog. "Wait just a moment." After a little while, the men became suspicious and paddled the boat around the log. The little frog jumped in the water with a splash and was gone. The men looked around for more frogs, but all the frogs were hiding. The little frog had warned them. The sun was about to rise, so the men gave up and went back to their huts to sleep. Just at sunrise, the boy awoke in his own hut and ran outside to the water buffalo pen. Hiding in the underbrush, he watched the top of the bamboo stalk. Sure enough, here came little things with wings, almost invisible against the blue sky, flying in from all directions. They flew into a bee-hole in the bamboo just before the morning sunlight hit the tall bamboo stalk. The boy got his father's curved knife and chopped the bamboo down. The bee-hole buzzed with angry voices, but the boy didn't listen. He plugged the bee-hole with a stick and cut away the one long segment of the stalk containing the bee-hole. He ran to the cooking fire in front of his hut and threw the bamboo into the flame. The bamboo stalk burned up, and all the k'in burned up too. At least we hope it was all of them. Maybe it wasn't. If a friend of yours eats live frogs, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't.